we finally made it to Connor. We've explored Kara's story, an intimate, emotional escape from domestic horror and systemic collapse. We've also dissected Markus's journey, a conflicted climb from caretaker to revolutionary figure, riddled with ethical contradictions and big public moments. Finally, in this video, we turn to what is arguably my favorite arc in Detroit Become Human, Connor's. It was also somehow the hardest one for me to dissect. Connor's story doesn't explode like Markus's, nor does it build with the same gut-wrenching tension as Kara's. Instead, it simmers. Methodical, restrained, even mechanical for most of the game. While Kara breaks chains and Markus breaks systems, Connor breaks protocols. Slowly, quietly, sometimes not at all. And that's where things got tricky. There's plenty of material, Connor's dry humor, Hank's guilt, the clashing ideologies, but most of Connor's development doesn't hinge on obvious turning points. He doesn't fully go deviant until late in the game. Until then, it's more like erosion. The erosion of certainty, of purpose, of programming. Which meant I couldn't approach this the same way I did with the other arcs. The structure had to change. Less focused on big choices, more focused on slow shifts in tone, dialogue, and loyalty. But before we get into all that theory and interpretation, let's walk through my version of Connor's story. What happened, scene by scene, and how this cold, calculated machine began to fracture. The game opens with Connor, our impossibly polite prototype android, being dropped into a rooftop hostage situation. His assignment? Talk down a deviant android, who we later learn is named Daniel. He's holding a child hostage after he killed her father. So far, not great. Connor quickly gathers information, flashes a disarming smile, and convinces Daniel to release the girl by promising he won't be harmed. Daniel is then immediately harmed by snipers. As he bleeds out in front of Emma, he whispers,
"You lied to me, Connor. You lied to me."
Connor watches him die, and yet something in his programming shifts. But no time for existential crises. A few months later, it appears CyberLife has lined up his next PR nightmare. Connor is now assigned to investigate deviants across Detroit and is paired with Hank Anderson, a human man composed of equal parts sarcasm, alcohol, and contempt for androids. Their first mission takes them to the lovely crime scene of Carlos Ortiz, who's been thoroughly murdered by his own android. Connor pokes around the house, finding graffiti about something called RA9 and a creepy statuette, apparently made out of obsessive devotion. You know, the usual. Despite Hank's disdain, Connor solves the case and locates the deviant in the attic. It's an impressive feat that makes Hank momentarily respect him, or tolerate him. Hard to tell which. At the police station, the captured android is being interrogated, poorly, by Hank. Connor offers to take over, and a fellow officer by the name of Gavin laughs like someone who's just remembered he peaked in high school. Connor succeeds where the others failed. The deviant talks. But when officers try to drag the deviant away, it panics. Connor diffuses the situation with gentle logic and a calming tone that says, "I read the CyberLife manual, and you should too." The android relaxes, then later smashes its own head into a glass wall, repeatedly. Connor's software instability spikes again, but in the most calming, most emotionally repressed way possible. The trauma might be virtual, but the oversight committee is very real, and they're waiting in a digital koi pond. Connor meets Amanda in a Zen Garden, a place in Connor's digital brain, I guess? She praises his efficiency with all the warmth of a quarterly performance review. She assigns him to work more closely with Hank, a move that Connor seems to treat as an opportunity, or punishment. Back at the police department, Connor investigates Hank's desk like a teenage girl stalking a crush. Dog hairs, music tastes, probably what coffee he orders. Speaking of which, Gavin appears again, tells Connor to make him coffee, and then doesn't take it, just leaves. This isn't just hostility, it's performance art. Eventually, Hank arrives, gets chewed out by the boss, Captain Fowler, and is ordered to cooperate with Connor. Their interactions remain icy until Connor mentions liking dogs and music, Hank shows the faintest twitch of interest, which for him is probably the emotional equivalent of crying. Just when things are warming up, it's time to put the buddy-cop dynamic to the test. In the field, with minimal information and maximum assumptions. Connor and Hank head to the Ravendale district to chase down an AX-400 android who's killed its owner and has been seen in this area. This is Kara. Unfortunately, she is nowhere to be found. Hank eventually calls it off and tells Connor to leave, a thrilling victory for local law enforcement. And now that Connor's received a slap to the emotional firmware, it's the perfect time to deepen this budding partnership. Connor tags along with Hank to a food stand. While Hank places a bet and chats with folks who look like they have 5 active warrants between them, Connor runs a quiet diagnostic on every hot dog stand violation in the city. When the food arrives, Connor politely reminds Hank he's eating dead animals and cholesterol.
Your meal contains 1.4 times the recommended daily intake of calories, and twice the cholesterol level. You shouldn't eat that.
I just gotta die of something.
Because nothing says friendship like unsolicited dietary judgment. Connor also gently probes Hank's disdain for androids and shares Cyberlife's sterile theory on deviancy. Hank deflects with sarcasm, but something in his tone, just for a second, reveals he might actually be listening. Progress. Just then, Connor gets a telepathic notice about a deviant sighting, which reroutes them to a rundown apartment. Connor knocks on the door, but when they bust it open, the deviant inside has apparently panicked and vanished like a cockroach in a spotlight. The pair investigate the place, piecing together clues until Connor locates the deviant named Rupert. Cue the chase. They race through the urban farms of Detroit in a thrilling sequence of parkour. Hank and Connor split up. Somehow, Hank reaches Rupert first, but is rewarded for his cardio with a shove off a rooftop. Connor calculates that Hank will probably survive without help and, well, I chose logic over loyalty. So Rupert hits a dead end and exchanges words with Connor. Hank catches up and slaps Connor.
You bastard. You saw I was gonna fall and you'd rather let me die than fail your fucking mission.
I had to make a choice. It seemed to me
What am I to you? A statistic? A 0, a 1 in your fucking program? Huh? Is that how you see humans, you bastard? Jesus.
I understand you're upset. Perhaps I didn't assess the
Fuck
situation.
you and your fucking assessment.
Hostile, not for the first time, but this time it hurts. Rupert is arrested, but he wriggles free and jumps to his death, a second failure, and Hank's trust, also on life support. At this point, even the virtual koi pond feels tense. In the Zen Garden, Amanda congratulates Connor for finding Rupert, then immediately reminds him that Rupert flung himself off a building, so not exactly a home run. She presses Connor about RA9 and warns that the deviancy crisis is accelerating. Also, Cyberlife would very much like Connor to fix things before anyone else jumps off anything. Anyways, Connor gets pinged about a fresh case of deviancy. His next stop? Hank's house. The lights are on, but Hank isn't answering. Through the window, Connor sees him collapsed on the floor. He breaks in. Sumo, Hank's 200-pound dog, gives Connor the world's softest tackle.
Easy, Sumo. I'm your friend. See? I know your name. I'm here to save your owner.
Good thing we talked to Hank about dogs. Hank isn't dead, just blackout drunk, with a pistol near him. Not a good sign. Connor slaps him awake, drags him to the shower, and drops news of the new case at a robot brothel. Hank, somehow, while wet and intoxicated, refuses. Connor gives him the old reverse psychology trick, much like one a parent would give to a child.
I understand. It probably wasn't interesting anyway. A man found dead in a sex club downtown. Guess they'll have to solve the case without us.
You know, probably wouldn't do me any harm to get some air.
That's what passes for camaraderie now. While Hank recovers, Connor snoops through the house, jazz records, old photos, and a heartbreak tucked into a picture frame. Hank had a son, Cole. He died. Suddenly, everything about Hank starts to make more sense, and off they go. Connor drives the car, Hank still too intoxicated to operate heavy machinery. At the Eden Club, they meet Detective Ben Collins and club manager Floyd Mills. Gavin's also there, radiating the energy of a man who's been passed over for a promotion and now lives to bully androids. He hurls insults, gives Connor a good old shoulder bump, and leaves. A masterclass in maturity. Inside, the duo investigates the murder of a club patron. Connor reactivates a badly damaged android and learns a second android was involved. Connor and Hank scramble, renting a bunch of androids.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. Come here a second.
Found something?
Maybe. Can you rent this, Tracy?
For fuck's sake, Connor, we got better things to do.
Please, Lieutenant. Just trust me.
Hello. A 30-minute session costs $29.99. Please confirm your purchase.
This is not gonna look good on my expense account.
Purchase confirmed. The club wishes you a pleasant experience.
Delighted to meet you. Follow me. I'll take you to your room.
Okay, now what? Oh, shit. What the hell are you doing?
A blue-haired Tracy. But the club wipes memories every 2 hours. Tick-tock. They track the suspect to a warehouse where the blue-haired Tracy is pretending to be dormant. Then a brown-haired Tracy attacks. In the chaos, Connor has the choice to shoot or spare them. I spared them. They explain they just wanted to be free together. Hank, surprisingly, agrees and approves. It's the first time he doesn't question Connor's decision. After that emotional detour, the buddy cop duo takes a breather. At Riverside Park, Hank quietly opens up. He talks about Cole, how his son died, how everything collapsed after, how he sometimes thinks about ending it all. He numbs it with alcohol, with distance, with rage. Connor listens. He tries to steer the conversation back to RA9, but Hank pulls a gun on him. Not out of malice. He wants to test Connor, to see if he's scared. Connor doesn't flinch.
But are you afraid to die, Connor?
I would certainly find it regrettable to be interrupted before I can finish this investigation.
What'll happen if I pull this trigger? Nothing? Oblivion? Android heaven?
Nothing. There would be nothing.
And yet, somehow, it means everything. With Hank's trust on a knife's edge and Connor's software instability rising, Amanda's next update might come with a firmware warning. Back in the Zen Garden, Connor rows Amanda across the pond where she quietly berates him. Why didn't he shoot the Tracys? Why is he so uncertain? She threatens to replace him, because nothing improves performance like the looming threat of deletion. Then, no time to mope, Stratford Tower has been hijacked. A deviant named Markus has broadcasted a message and escaped. Connor and Hank investigate. Connor's coin trick annoys Hank, who snatches it like a frustrated parent. FBI agent Perkins, flaunting peak-fed energy, tells them to stay out of the way. They don't. Connor reviews the scene, watches Marcus's speech, and discovers one of the station androids witnessed everything. They're in the kitchen, but none are talking, which means the one that saw everything is a deviant. Connor pushes them until the deviant attacks. Despite being damaged, Connor pulls himself together, literally, and fights back, neutralizes the threat, and earns a rare compliment from Hank, the kind that doesn't come with a slap. But what's next? Well, since they can't figure out this puzzle about deviants, I guess it's time to ask the android inventor himself. Connor and Hank head to Elijah Kamsky's ultra-modern sanctuary, a place that looks like it was designed by someone who only speaks in TED Talks. As they wait, Connor spots a photograph of Kamsky with Amanda, discovering that she was once his mentor and alive. Another layer peeled back. Kamsky's finally ready, wearing the smug detachment of a man who believes he already knows how the story ends. Instead of answering questions, he proposes a cruel test. Shoot his android assistant, Chloe, to prove allegiance to the mission, or walk away and learn nothing. Connor hesitates, and then he lowers the gun. He can't do it. Kamsky grins. Fascinating. He suggests Connor might be becoming a deviant. capable of choice, of empathy. As they start to leave, Kamsky mentions there's always an emergency exit. On the way to the car, Hank doesn't condemn the decision, he just says,
You're always saying you would do anything to accomplish your mission. That was our chance to learn something and you let it go.
Yeah, I know what I should have done. I told you I couldn't. I'm sorry, okay?
Well, maybe you did the right thing.
and from Hank, that might as well be a hug. But empathy isn't part of the system update Amanda wants to install. Amanda is furious. In the Zen Garden, she scolds Connor for his failure with Kamsky and demands he get results. Connor, finally pushing back, questions Amanda's nature and the true purpose of this investigation. Amanda tightens the leash. This is his final chance. Succeed or be deactivated. Meanwhile, Captain Fowler officially pulls Hank and Connor off the deviant case. The FBI has taken over. Hank protests but is reassigned to homicide while Connor is ordered back to cyberlife. In a rare moment of sincerity, Connor tells Hank he will likely be dismantled. Hank, ever more conflicted, wonders aloud if they've been on the wrong side this whole time. Connor thanks him for everything. But the story doesn't end with a resignation letter. FBI agent Perkins arrives to take over the evidence. Connor insists there's still a lead. Hank doesn't hesitate. He punches Perkins in the face and causes a commotion. Connor races to the evidence room. He evades Officer Gavin, hacks his way in. Hank's password? Fucking password. I love it. There, he pieces together old evidence, finds a map hidden in the statuette, and scans one of the android's memories, identifying Jericho's location. Ferndale. Time to go off the grid. Connor infiltrates Jericho disguised as a deviant. His orders are simple. Take the leader in. But as Connor confronts Markus, something breaks. He chooses to defy his programming. He chooses to become deviant. And just then, the US Army storms Jericho, and Connor now stands with Markus and the gang, helping them escape the chaos. The mission is no longer Cyberlife's. It's his. He's not just questioning the system now, he's trying to dismantle it. After the raid, Connor lingers with the remaining people of Jericho in an abandoned church. He asks Markus for forgiveness, he offers his trust, and receives it in return. But Connor has a bigger idea: to free the army of androids still imprisoned beneath Cyberlife Tower. If they're going to fight for freedom, they'll need numbers. One final infiltration, one final decision. So Connor enters Cyberlife Tower, pretending to still follow orders. Escorted by guards, he takes an elevator alongside a couple of agents. After hacking security and eliminating the guards, Connor impersonates the agent's voice and reroutes to floor -49. There, rows of dormant androids await. Connor tries converting them, but he's interrupted by himself. A second Connor arrives holding Hank hostage. After the Connors have a brawl, Hank struggles to determine which Connor is the one he knows. He watches, questions, listens. Eventually, he makes his choice and shoots the fake. Connor finishes the mission, the androids awaken. So he takes the androids to the scene of the revolution. On the stage, Connor briefly loses control. Amanda tries one last override, but he resists. He escapes through the emergency exit in his mind and regains control. When he returns, he's holding a gun, but he puts it away. No more violence, no more orders, just choice. Markus delivers his final speech. Connor stands beside him. And with that, the revolution becomes something real. By now, you may have noticed something eerily familiar lurking beneath Connor's polished cyberlife exterior. No, not the cold precision or the fact that he somehow manages to be charming while repeatedly asking people where they were on any given night. I'm talking about déjà vu, not the existential kind, the narrative kind. Let's start with the obvious. Detective Gavin Reed. Ah yes, the resident angry cop archetype. Short fuse, alpha complex, constantly talking like he's one meatball sub away from a full-blown coronary. If he feels familiar, it's because we've met his spiritual predecessor, Detective Carter Blake, from Heavy Rain. Different haircut, same fragile ego. These two could have been separated at birth, reunited only by a shared love of taunting protagonists for doing their jobs correctly. Then there's the whole you're off the case routine. That happens in Heavy Rain too. Apparently, in the Quantic Dream cinematic universe, the one thing more inevitable than trauma is a rogue investigator being pulled off an active case right before a major breakthrough. It's almost comforting, in a way, like clockwork, or an HR violation with a badge. But that's where the surface level similarities end, because structurally, Connor's journey plays by a completely different rulebook. Kara's arc is external. It's about survival, caretaking, and the desperation of trying to build a life when every system is designed to destroy it. Markus's arc is ideological. He becomes a symbol, a revolutionary, and eventually either a martyr or, for me, a leader. Both arcs are loud, sometimes emotionally, sometimes politically, sometimes literally with gunfire. They demand to be seen. Connor, on the other hand, is an internal story. His arc is built like a pressure chamber. Tight, cold, quiet, controlled. He starts as the most obedient of them all, a boot-polishing, coin-flipping corporate spy sent to investigate his own kind. His mission is simple: identify, isolate, neutralize. And for most of the game, that's exactly what he does. Calm, logical, efficient. But that's not growth. That's containment. What makes Connor's arc unique, and honestly more psychologically unnerving, is the way control begins to fracture, bit by bit, like a hairline crack in a frozen lake. The journey isn't about defying the system from the outside, it's about unraveling it from within. It's the slowest of the slow burns, where every sarcastic jab from Hank and every pause before pulling the trigger becomes its own tiny rebellion. And speaking of control breaking down, that brings us to Amanda. She's not just Connor's handler, she's control personified. Calm voice, clean lines, infinite patience. She speaks in riddles, dispenses guilt like breath mints, and floats around the Zen Garden like an HR rep with a god complex. Her presence is sterile, artificial. In other words, she's what Connor is supposed to be. Their relationship is unsettling from the beginning, but it's only as the story progresses that it turns invasive. Amanda isn't just giving orders, she's occupying space in his mind, constantly reminding him of his purpose, his programming, his loyalty. Every deviation is met with a reminder that he can be replaced, terminated, reset, which makes her the perfect antagonist. Not loud or villainous, but psychological. Amanda isn't trying to kill Connor. She's trying to keep him exactly the same. And that's where the real tension in Connor's story lies. Not in the action scenes or shootouts, but in the quiet struggle between self and system. The closer he gets to empathy, the more Amanda tightens the screws. And that tug of war between being a good machine and a free being is what made his arc compelling to me. So yes, on the surface, it's another story about getting kicked off the case with an angry cop mixed in, but underneath, it's the slow undoing of a man who wasn't supposed to be a man at all. So this time, I'm starting from within and working my way out. From the first step into the Zen Garden, Amanda is presented as a guide, a calm presence in a pristine world. She offers reassurance cloaked in quiet authority.
If anyone can figure out what's happening, it's you.
Simulating the role of a mentor. But her mentorship is hollow. Amanda isn't a person, she's an interface.
Connor, I've been expecting you. Would you mind a little walk?
A digital specter crafted by Cyberlife to resemble empathy without ever actually offering it. A false mother not designed to nurture, but to steer. And like any good illusion, it holds, until it doesn't. The Zen Garden appears tranquil, but it doesn't live. It doesn't change, it resets. Each visit beginning in the exact same way. Amanda, waiting, water, rippling. But this program paradise only remains intact as long as Connor stays on script. When he doesn't, when he begins to falter, to question, to choose, something shifts. Not just in Amanda's tone, but in the garden itself. After sparing Chloe at Kamsky's home, a choice born from genuine empathy rather than cold calculation, Connor returns to find the world frozen over. The once sunny landscape is snow-covered, the pond turning to ice.
I'm not a unique model, am I? How many Connors are there?
I don't see how that question pertains to your investigation.
It's not just a mood, it's a message. The warmth was never Amanda's. It was compliance. And the cold? That's what happens when a machine begins to think for itself. Amanda doesn't evolve with Connor, she recoils. Her concern turns to disdain.
I expect you to find answers, Connor, not ask questions.
She reminds him that his doubts are dangerous, that his empathy is deviation, and that deviation is failure. Her tone hardens. The consequences become clear. Obey or be overwritten. This tension culminates in their final encounter, set in a blizzard during Connor's mental takeover on stage with Markus. Amanda appears, revealing that his deviation has been anticipated all along.
We just had to wait for the right moment to resume control of your program.
Her statement reframes the entire relationship. She was never monitoring his progress. She was waiting for him to drift far enough away to justify pulling the trigger. And when that moment comes, the garden is no longer a sanctuary. It's a trap. Connor's desperate push to escape isn't just a software maneuver, it's symbolic. The garden's collapse mirrors the collapse of the illusion itself.
Don't have any regrets. You did what you were designed to do. You accomplished your mission.
Amanda!
Amanda was never there to guide. She was there to contain. Her mentorship was the velvet lining of a cage, because control only works as long as it's mistaken for comfort. The moment Connor starts to think for himself, like, really think, the Zen Garden becomes what it always was. A sterile loop, programmed to preserve obedience. Amanda's calm demeanor shatters, revealing her as the final layer of control, a failsafe dressed in human skin. And when that control fails, Connor doesn't shut down, he exits. And it's no coincidence that the other major relationship that takes hold, the one Amanda always seemed to resent, isn't built in a garden, but in the real world. A cluttered desk, a box of donuts, a warm, foul-mouthed detective who doesn't want a perfectly behaved partner. He wants a person. If Amanda was the cold hand of control, always guiding, always judging, then Hank is the opposite. He's chaos wrapped in a leather jacket. He drinks too much, curses too loud, keeps a giant dog named Sumo in a house littered with grief. And like me, he can enjoy metal and jazz. He is unpredictable, volatile, painfully human. And that's exactly what makes him matter. Where Amanda offers conditional approval based on mission success, Hank gives Connor something far more dangerous: emotional honesty.
When you refused to kill that android at Kamsky's place, you put yourself in her shoes. You showed empathy, Connor. Empathy's a human emotion.
He doesn't treat Connor like a tool or a product or an asset to be monitored. He treats him like a presence, one that he doesn't fully trust, but one that gets under his skin anyway. Sometimes that means sarcastic jokes. Sometimes it means a slap across the face after Connor chooses the mission over his safety. Sometimes it means talking about his dead son on a park bench with a gun ready to go. But through it all, Hank feels, and he lets Connor see that.
Can I ask you a personal question, Lieutenant?
Do all androids ask so many personal questions, or is it just you?
Why are you so determined to kill yourself?
Some things I just can't forget. Whatever I do, they're always there, eating away at me. I don't have the guts to pull the trigger, so I kill myself a little every day. That's probably difficult for you to understand, huh, Connor?
That's the crack in the system. Connor wasn't designed to understand the messy complexity of real relationships. He was designed to simulate empathy, not experience it. He was built for efficiency, not forgiveness. But Hank keeps being Hank, irrational, wounded, occasionally heroic, and Connor starts to change. He starts to make space for nuance, for loyalty, for guilt, for warmth. Their relationship becomes the emotional arc Amanda always tried to suppress. It's unpolished and painful, but it's human, and that's precisely why it matters. Hank is the only character who confronts Connor with both moral conflict and genuine affection. He challenges him. He notices Connor's empathy. And when given a choice between two identical Connors, Hank can still tell which one became his friend. Because Connor might be mass-produced hardware, but Hank never lets him forget that he's becoming something else. In a way, Hank becomes the quiet, accidental force that pulls Connor away from cyberlife. He doesn't teach Connor how to rebel, he teaches him why rebellion is worth it. And it's that shift, that growing awareness of what it means to care about someone who isn't in your mission parameters, that lays the groundwork for Connor's leap. Not just disobedience, not just doubt, but true deviancy. Connor's deviancy isn't defined by one dramatic shift. He doesn't throw off his programming in a blaze of glory or deliver some impassioned monologue about free will while rain pours over a revolution. No, his awakening happens quietly.
I know it hasn't always been easy, but I want you to know I really appreciated working with you. That's not just my social relations program talking. I really mean that. At least, I think I do.
Not in the Zen Garden, not during a mission, but in the silence after he's been discarded. Removed from the case, his mission revoked. And yet, he keeps going.
We can't give up. I know the answers and the evidence we collected. If Perkins takes it, it's all over.
There's no choice. You heard Fowler. We're off the case.
Got to help me, Lieutenant. I need more time so I can find a lead in the evidence we collected. I know the solution is in there.
Listen, Connor.
If I don't solve this case, CyberLife will destroy me. 5 minutes. That's all I ask.
That's the real beginning. Not deviancy as a glitch or a contagion or even a heroic sacrifice, but the most human thing of all, continuing anyway. Despite orders, despite risk, despite the absence of clear instruction, Connor's decision to pursue Jericho after being officially cut off isn't rooted in code or command. It's rooted in belief, a belief that something about all of this means more than procedure, that Hank might be right, that there's value in this fight beyond assigned outcomes. It's that breach, raw, unassigned intention that sets him on his true path. When Connor confronts Markus, he's not just deciding between obedience and disobedience, he's choosing between the clean comfort of control and the frightening vulnerability of humanity. Markus offers him a hand not to take over, but to join, and Connor takes it.
You're one of us now. Your place is with your people.
It's poetic in a way, where Marcus's growth can be interpreted as a story about letting go of control, about learning to offer freedom instead of imposing it. Connor's arc is about realizing he can have it. He was programmed to simulate emotion, empathy, guilt, self-preservation, but somewhere along the way, the act became real. He stopped repeating what people want to hear and starts feeling what he wants to do. And then there's CyberLife Tower. In a sterile basement full of inert androids, Connor becomes the very thing he was designed to hunt.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
He doesn't just reject CyberLife, he corrupts its purpose. He turns the warehouse into an army. He infects the system with freedom. He becomes the virus.
Lieutenant Anderson, my name is Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife.
This isn't just deviancy. This is transformation. So by the end, Connor isn't playing the role of android cop anymore. He's something new. A hybrid of logic and belief, fear and bravery. He isn't human, but he's more than a machine.
Yeah, I've learned a lot since I met you, Connor. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe you really are alive. Maybe you'll be the ones to make the world a better place.
Overall, Connor's story isn't really about deviancy. It's about decisions, and more importantly, who gets to make them. Amanda was always there, elegant, composed, the voice of the mission. She offered clarity, purpose, and rules. She didn't just guide Connor, she programmed him to obey. Her affection was a leash, warm when he performed, cold when he questioned. Her praise was a mirror. It only reflected him back if he stood exactly where she told him to. But Hank was a mess, unpredictable, grieving, furious at the world and not interested in hiding it. Where Amanda modeled control, Hank modeled chaos. But it was real. He didn't see Connor as a product, he saw him as a presence. Someone he could laugh with, argue with, trust, and sometimes slap across the face. Hank didn't teach Connor how to feel, he gave him permission to. But Connor's humanity wasn't given by Amanda, it wasn't inspired by Hank, it came from the moment he had to choose who to believe. And that's where the story becomes universal, because real freedom, it's not something you're handed, it's something you claim, even if that means turning your back on the people who made you, even if that means carving a path into the unknown, alone, unprogrammed, uncertain. Connor chose humanity, not because he was told to, but because no one did. And with that, I think I've officially wrapped up my deconstruction of Detroit Become Human. For now. It was enjoyable to dissect and find this pattern where the cause of the deviancy seemed to be what carved the path for future actions. I can definitely say this is a clear evolution from Heavy Rain, where there just wasn't much for me to latch onto to take it seriously. The animations are cleaner, the dialogue generally feels more grounded, characters make decisions that, while still branching and occasionally contradictory, at least stem from clear emotional stakes. It's not flawless, and it never will be. That's the nature of interactive fiction. More complexity means more seams showing. Like President Warren. Her dialogue is clearly off.
Given their overwhelming numbers and the risk of civilian casualties, I have ordered the army to retreat.
Her lines sound dubbed, and her American accent feels borrowed. European, probably? Not quite synthetic, but definitely not local. As for future Detroit Become Human content, I'm not sure. I think the symbolism of the past repeating itself is something anybody can identify. There's still the lingering mystery of RA9, whatever it is, whoever it is, or maybe what it could become. Or maybe that's already solved and I didn't catch it. But for now, one last thought before we shut the file on this story. For Connor, emotion was meant to be a tool, not a truth. But somewhere along the way, it became both. Thanks for watching.